Your birthday is coming up, and someone casually asks, "So what are you doing for your birthday?" Maybe they expect you to say you're planning a party, dinner, or something exciting. But instead you reply, "Nothing. It's just another day." And suddenly the room feels awkward because people don't understand how someone could treat their birthday like a normal day. In a world where birthdays are supposed to be special, ignoring them almost feels strange. But psychology suggests that there may actually be deeper reasons behind this behavior. For some people, birthdays stopped feeling important because life quietly taught them not to expect too much. When someone repeatedly hopes for something meaningful and those expectations aren't met, the brain gradually adjusts in order to protect itself from disappointment, lowering expectations so that emotional pain becomes less likely. Over time, the excitement fades, and what once felt like a special event becomes just another date on the calendar. Not because the person doesn't care, but because their mind learned that expectations can sometimes hurt more than silence. But not everyone treats birthdays normally because of past disappointment. There's another group whose lives are simply too full. These are the people whose minds are constantly focused on projects, responsibilities, and long-term goals. And psychologists often describe this experience as time compression, where days and weeks blur together because attention is directed towards something larger than the calendar. When someone is deeply invested in building their life, birthdays may not feel like a major event. They're simply another day in a long timeline of growth and progress. Then there's a third group, and psychologically, this group may be the most interesting. Researchers who study happiness often talk about internal fulfillment, a state where a person's sense of value and happiness doesn't depend heavily on external celebrations or social rituals. These people don't need dozens of birthday messages or a large gathering to feel appreciated, because their sense of worth comes from something quieter: meaningful relationships, personal purpose, and the small moments that make life feel whole. For them, happiness isn't something that appears once a year with cake and candles. It's something that exists in ordinary moments throughout the year, which means when their birthday arrives, they don't reject celebration. They simply don't rely on it. But psychology also reveals something deeper, because many people's relationship with birthdays begins long before adulthood. Imagine being a child counting down the days to your birthday, imagining the cake, the attention, and the feeling of being special for one day. And then imagine that moment, not matching the picture you built in your mind. Maybe people forgot. Maybe the day felt smaller than expected. Or maybe the celebration never happened the way you hoped. Children rarely analyze these experiences logically, but the brain remembers emotional moments, and years later, when birthdays appear again on the calendar, something subtle happens. The mind recalls that feeling, even if the memory itself isn't clear. Sometimes the simplest response becomes emotional self-protection, telling yourself it's just another day, so that the expectation disappears before disappointment can appear again. There's also another psychological reason why some people treat their birthday normally: the fear of disappointment itself. Studies on self-worth show that some individuals quietly protect themselves by lowering visible expectations. If you never expect people to make your birthday special, you can never feel forgotten. From the outside, this can look like indifference, but internally, it might simply be a way of protecting emotional stability. So when someone says they treat their birthday like a normal day, the truth is, there could be many different stories behind that simple sentence. Maybe they learned to protect their expectations. Maybe they're focused on building a meaningful life every single day instead of waiting for one special date. Or maybe they simply realized that happiness doesn't have to arrive with candles, balloons, and a celebration. In a world that celebrates loudly, Some people find peace in something quieter, and sometimes quiet doesn't mean something is missing. It simply means they already feel complete.